I'm blocking out time. That's something that I've realized, well, it's something I always realize, but time, the fear of time running out is what drives so many humans, and for me it's an especial fear. Just time, big and small, not just like before you die, because I don't care about that time running out, but it's sort of, yeah, that time. And I realize today as well, and whenever I look in Myers-Briggs, and I think how wonderful it must be for Isabel Myers, who created this with her mother, and how amazing it must have been. I mean, she was an INFP. I can just imagine what joy and passion it gave her, and possibly frustration too, as all life's works happen, but that she had that goal, and wow, I love it. And when I'm happiest, even though INFPs, I've been searching a lot on the YouTubes and stuff, INFPs get the worst rap of all types. We come, like, it sounds really narcissistic for us to say it, and neurotic, but I think we are the most misunderstood types, bar the INFJ type, because I will say they are misunderstood a lot. But the INFPs, I think, are second to the INFJs. Sorry if that's wrong, but I feel that it's right, because that it's really funny, because I'm on this site, celebritytypes.com, and it's got all the different 16 types of the Myers-Briggs, and all the celebrities, not celebrities, but yeah, but also writers, songwriters, and stuff that are your type, and quotes that back it up, and maybe even links if they can provide it. And I think they've gotten them pretty right. And it's funny because on the INFP page, I mean, all these people are like my favorite actors, or like my favorite people, not necessarily because they do, like Andrew Garfield. I like him in Never Let Me Go, and I guess I do like his other work, but I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite actors, but I do just love him, and the sensitivity and the interviews, and I just love it. And Jude Law, I do think he's an amazing actor, and he is actually one of my favorite actors. He's an INFP. Heath Ledger, while he still lived, was one of my favorite actors, although he did creep me out a little bit too much with the Joker. That was pretty dark. But like in A Knight's Tale, that's a comedy, but he did bring a lot of depth to the role. And I don't know, just all these people. Tolkien, A. Milnes, the person who wrote The Little Prince, Nicolas Cage, sadly. I don't mind Johnny Depp being one, but Nicolas Cage. Anyhow, it's Augustine, Homer, Vincent van Gogh, Hans Christian Andersen. He's like my favorite person of all times, because even though he writes fairy tales, there's always stuff underneath. It's not just a simple tale. Like the Grimm brothers tend to be pretty open and shut, but Hans Christian Andersen actually, I feel, wrote stuff that really mattered. Not to say that the Grimm brothers' life work of going around collecting folklore didn't matter, because that was important, because those tales would have been lost probably. But Hans Christian Andersen created something more. And one of the tales, for instance, I've only ever listened to it, I haven't read it, but it's unabridged, and I think it takes like 40 minutes to an hour to be read out, and I think it's called The Shoes of Misfortune, and it's about these shoes. It has a moral, and yet it's so full of imagination, and I love it. William Shakespeare is also apparently an INFP. You're gonna get so sick of me going on INFPs. Edgar Allan Poe. Not sure that I like his work, but anyhow. William Blake. The person who wrote Calvin and Hobbes. J.K. Rowling, apparently. Yeah. So, it gets me really excited, but then I feel sort of like being embarrassed. And also, last Sunday's sermon was about manipulating people and don't manipulate people, and INFPs, I've been coming across that a lot of people feel on the internet that they have been manipulated by an INFP, and I think that INFPs do have a dark side, and that dark side is definitely manipulation. I think an INFP, I know that if I wanted to, which my whole being goes against, so I would never ever. But I think an INFP could mess up a person pretty badly if they went dark, because it's really easy for an INFP to manipulate because they're really good at subtlety, I think. Because usually our emotions go under that, and that's why maybe we feel sad, because people don't catch on to the things we want them to catch on. So yeah, you could totally manipulate someone using the same sort of premise. So that's awful. But I would never do that, and I know a lot of other INFPs would never, ever, ever do that. The trouble is that our manipulation things come in a little more, like, for instance, hanging around. Maybe other people do this, but I think INFPs do it more sort of like hanging around someone until we get what we want. And feeling incredibly guilty at the same time, but knowing that you need that. For instance, I'm talking about like little things, like asking someone to take you home in their car because you don't want to walk in the rain, things like that. And instead of just being up front, like another type might be, and being like, hey, can I have a lift home? I have started being more up front, but I still sort of wait until maybe they'll ask me first, so I don't feel bad, but then I'll still feel bad because I feel like I've manipulated them, which I guess, is that manipulation? I don't know, but I feel bad. I heard something that made sense, but the person didn't understand because they were an INFP, but they've noticed that INFPs tend to be smothering in relationships because they give so much, but they also expect the same back. I didn't say it quite like that, but that is very true. But see, to us, it doesn't seem like it's evil or smothering, although we know that it very possibly will become that. But to us, it's vital, it's a lifeline, because we only make connections with a handful of people, and I mean a handful, on a deep level. To us, it's our lifeline, and even though we don't want to chase them away by smothering, it's really painful, because to stay away means that our personal relationships are the most important parts of our lives. I think I can say that pretty across the board for INFPs. Like, personal relationships are extremely, extremely important. It doesn't matter if you're doing well in your job, if your family life is in, shambles, because you'll be sitting at your desk thinking about your family life. And I guess that's why this past year has been kind of awful for me in some ways. Not that it hasn't been great for years, but because it's been okay here, but it hasn't all been great at work either. But anyhow, my mind's always been elsewhere. It really frustrates me because I wish that I could live in the here and now, but I can't, so that's really frustrating. A lot of other people were talking about how INFPs get along with other types, and I know for me, the least type I get along with is ENTJ, which is my dad. It's almost the complete opposite for me. We do tend to look at long-lasting consequences, but we look at them in different ways, so it's basically like we are opposites completely. You couldn't have a worse combination for father and daughter, I think, than INFP and ENTJ. But that's what it is. So, still sort of learning to sort of work around that. I mean, I'm sure there are nice ENTJs out there. I know there are, because I've met some, and they've learned to sort of tone down some of their more forceful qualities. Just as myself, because we all need to grow, I need to work on not doing the passive-aggressive thing, for good or bad. I should just not do it. I should work on being more straightforward. But I've met some really lovely ENTJs, and they only got forceful when they were got really upset. But my dad, he's just like that all the time, and that's just means that you're not very nice. Okay, my mom is an ISFP. I haven't had many experiences with INFPs, apparently, but for her, because we're mother and daughter maybe, and because we've also developed into great friends, we get along great. The only thing that we had issues with growing up is because I would get very intense, because her first function is inward feeling, my first function is inward feeling, but we use them in different ways. She's a lot more mellow with her inward feeling, I feel, and she expresses that than through art and stuff. I mean, INFPs may do that too, but it comes and goes with us. I think with ISFPs it's a lot more steady, like they always have at least one creative outlet on the go, so that's how they get their inward feeling out, and I think they're a lot calmer with it, whereas INFPs, we're pretty explosive with our inward feeling. At least what I know of the INFPs that I know, and myself, is we internalize inward feeling, and it's so intense. I think it must be the most intense inward feeling than any other types. Now, that I could be extremely biased, but I've read that somewhere as well. And internalize, and then all of a sudden it explodes in passion. Maybe in good, maybe in bad, but usually it tends to be bad. So anyhow, so I would tell her, like, I would rant about things, and I wouldn't be angry necessarily. I would just be so passionate, like, this is an injustice. And she couldn't take that because she's such a mellow person usually, and she would think that I was angry, and she didn't want, she couldn't take that anger. So I completely understand, but at the time I didn't. So that's sort of where we tended to butt heads. Also, I tend to skip around a lot in the conversation, and going from this and that and that and random thoughts and stuff, and she has to have more linear. We have to be very linear when we talk, or I have to sort of make a clear segue into the next discussion topic if we do switch, which is fine, but it just took time for us to become close friends like we are now, instead of a sort of rocky. It was always good. It was never very rocky, but it was just a little rocky because I hadn't matured enough to, and she didn't understand where I was coming from because of course we're different people, understandably. So yeah, it is already really long, but I'm going to carry on. Okay, have some tea. This is a scarf, by the way, a winter scarf, because it is cold in the church house. Right, who next? Okay, so now there's me, INFP, goes without saying. Yeah. My brother is the type I know least about. I'm pretty positive he's an ESTP. He's so quiet, but I'm pretty sure he's extrovert because you can have quiet extroverts, and I'm pretty sure that's where he gets his energy from what I've observed with him growing up. I'm almost 100% sure. And the functions seem consistent, but it is the type I've done the least research on. The reason why I think he's an ESTP is because I read that ESTPs, they don't really care about what the outside world thinks, whereas I'm the opposite. I don't want to care, but it really affects me. Whereas ESTPs, they're just sort of like, they take it on board, but it kind of just slips off their back like water and oil, yeah. And they always keep their eye on their personal goal, which I admire so much, and he is just like that. The trouble is that I guess those are kind of opposites. We are opposites, and it's frustrating because I want to be close with him, but I find it very, very hard to be close with him, and I do think he thinks I'm a little bit silly. I know he loves me, but I do think he thinks I'm a little bit silly, and I think I act silly because I'm thinking he thinks I'm silly. I don't know. I should have it. He doesn't like to do serious talks though, so anyhow, I just take him as is. We have fun walking together, but it's not a relationship that I think would go anywhere unless there's a sudden emotional breakthrough on his part. So he's definitely a T. Anyhow, my sister, I'm almost positive, is ENFJ, which he strongly doesn't like the Myers-Briggs, doesn't like being stereotyped, but I'm pretty sure she's an ENFJ. She's extremely caring despite she's had a lot of bad things happen to her, and she has an extremely hard outer exterior and is very crusty on the outside, but she's really sweet. Like, for instance, I'm going home for Christmas, and they moved my old room, like the furniture, the way it used to be. Like, she did that of her own initiative just because she thought it would make me happy. Like, that is extremely sweet, and that's very consistent with the helping. Wait, I'm saying it wrong. She's not an ENFJ, she's an ESFJ, which, no, she's not an ENFJ. No way, she's more flighty than an ENFJ. but they still have to share the same caring side of the FJ. So yeah, she's really sweet, but she hates the test, so I never talk to her about it. My sister just took the test, and that's why I'm sort of excited about this again. It sort of lies dormant, my passion for the Myers-Briggs, and then all of a sudden something like this happens and I'm like, oh yes, the Myers-Briggs, come to me, my love. Except not that creepy. She tested, although I will encourage her to retake it again, although it does seem pretty consistent with her. She tested as the performer, the ESFP, and none of us really see her as a performer. She is, however, very play-minded, very sensually aware. Like, I was listening to a YouTube video, and they said the difference between an ESFP and an ENFP is that the ENFP is more like an INFP. Like, we're not very aware of our surroundings. I mean, we notice them, they look beautiful, and sometimes it's kind of annoying because you want to be more aware. Like, if you go to a beautiful cathedral, you want to look at the beautiful cathedral, but your mind is going off into imagination, and it's kind of frustrating because you like, look, focus on the cathedral. But with Heather, my youngest sister, that wouldn't be a problem because they're very aware. Like, he said that if there's a low ceiling, the ESFP will seriously feel that because it'll feel like it's crushing down on them. And that's why in conflict, they'll just see what they take, so they won't look below the surface unless you really get their attention, because they'll think, oh, stop it, you're fighting. They won't maybe say, actually, this is a debate we need to have, or something. Or at least that's the way it is with my sister, although she's only 16. I didn't want to type her before because 16, that's still young, and it's still developing, really, isn't it? So anyhow, those are my family. The only other ones I know is my very close friends, or we were very close for a number of years, and ENFJ, INTP, and INFJ. And I must say, of all the types, ENFJ and INFJ, especially INFJ, are my absolute favorite types of all. I just want to, can I marry you, please? I have a lot of INFPs saying that, but it's true. You guys complete us, our emotional needs, and I think you're the only types that actually do, like, fully complete us. But the thing is that then we want too much of you, and that's not fair, because you're only human, so that's not fair at all. Anyhow, and INTPs are the most emotional T-types, so that friend was also extremely understanding. And also, she was the best at talking me out of, I was suicidal. That's a lot of INFPs are, I think. And anyhow, she was the best at talking me out of those things because she understood emotionally, or she came across that she did, but she was also extremely rational. And that was wonderful because she took no nonsense. And that's what I needed at those times. So I was extremely fortunate that I made friends with those three perfect types. So I've heard that ENFPs and INFPs are supposed to get along really well, but the ENFPs I've met, I haven't. Maybe it's because I'm an extremely introverted INFP, I don't know, because everyone has different levels. But, or maybe they were extremely extroverted, but the ENF, although the ENFP is supposed to be the most introverted E, but anyhow, or is that the ENFJ? One of those. But I think it is the ENFP that's the most introverted. Anyhow, they just were too much for me. They were so much personality that I couldn't quite, like, small doses were wonderful and it was nice, but I couldn't take much, and I don't think I could be best friends with an ENFP. Watch me be proved wrong now in future years. Anyhow, I haven't really had much personal contact with the other types, so I can't say. Oh, my friend from childhood is, we only have one letter in common, so let's see, so she's an ISTJ. So the only thing we have in common is we like being alone, and we sympathize on that, and our upbringing, and that's it. But we tend to do okay. I get frustrated with not being able to share anything with her emotionally, But she is so faithful and so loyal as a friend. Like, you couldn't want a better friend. I know that she will never let me down as a friend, and that's extremely reassuring to have. So, yeah, that's the ISTJ, and that's it. And this is 20 minutes long.